I'm joined by Mike Searles. How do you pronounce your last name, Mike?
You can pronounce it Searles, rhymes with girls.
Searles. Cool. It rhymes with girls. All right. And whirls and twirls.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this random Substack live with me. Uh, it's it's always like everybody on there is talking about how important it is to build connections, and it's a different kind of social media platform. And so I wanted to, so that's been part of my strategy moving forward. And I saw your writing and I saw the way you engaged and you post and you note. And I was like, we started chatting and I was like, let's do a live. And you're like, let's do it. I'm like, so here we are. How are you
Terrific.
doing?
I'm grateful for the invitation, Joshua, and I've been looking forward to this because you're an interesting guy, and this is your episode, and so I'm not going to commandeer it, but I do want to say you're an interesting guy. I know that you've got a passion and an interest in astrology, which is an interest of mine as well in a broader sense, esoteric topics. But there's something else. Now, I come from a background of comedy, stand-up comedy, and there's an Australian comedian here in Australia by the real name of Jack Levi, but the stage name was Elliot Goblet. Now, you are the long-lost twin brother of Jack Levi stroke Elliot Goblet. And when you get a chance, have a look at search Elliot Goblet on YouTube. All you've got to do is put a bit of zinc cream, white zinc cream on your nose, and you are Elliot Goblet.
All right. So I see some of the resemblance. I do see some of the, so I'm Googling the picture, Google images, and there I see Elliot Goblet,
Yeah,
Jack TV.
yeah.
I mean, I do see
Lady,
resemblance. We're
now
wearing the
Jack,
same glass
Jack,
too.
Jack studied under the same comedy coach that I studied under, a bloke by the name of Pete Crofts. Pete actually wrote. Where is it here? Excuse me for bending down out of camera. Uh, oh, wouldn't you know it? Whenever you want to find a book, here it. No, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he wrote a very comprehensive book on how to use humour in life and business. And anyway, if anybody has interest in that topic and in that area, that's a book to look out for. Pete Crofts.
Pete Croft.
Yeah, Pete
Um,
Crofts. Humorversity. Excuse me for reaching out of screen again. I've got to find this book since I've mentioned it to you.
is it Business According to Goblet?
No, no. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, I see a book by him, Business According to Goblet by Elliot Goblet. It's a humorous corporate book that offers business advice from the perspective of a veteran corporate presenter.
No,
Published in
that's Jack's book. Look, just excuse me. I'll walk away from camera and see if I've got the book over here.
You never know what you're going to get.
No, you never know when you're doing live and doing it real.
Mm-hmm.
Now, oh, here it is. I've got it. Hang on a second. you know,
Quick shout out to Asher or Ryan. I see that there's three people in the chat. I assume that that's us two, and then either Asher or Ryan. So shout out to the to the people in the watching live. Um, but
now,
go ahead.
now you are. See, now look. That's why I've been looking forward to this. That is professionalism personified. Mentioning and giving a hello and a shout out to your viewers on a live stream. It's such a little thing, but it's so important. You've done it. I try and remember to do it. Not everybody does. There's the book I'm trying to remember. Can you see that
Oh,
one? Like,
yeah.
hold on.
How to use humor in business and life. So I think the important question from that, since we're not going to have a Wendy moment, um, what's something that you learned from that book that makes you find it important enough to share it and talk about it and bring it up?
Well, that's a good question. I come from the corporate background, and
The what?
I
I'm
come
sorry,
from an
dropped
era. What's that?
the signal dropped. You come from a background.
Corporate,
There
corporate,
we go. Thank you.
corporate background. Yeah. So I'm a victim of the 1990s era of uh, corporate training, and I think the real drive in the 90s. What was it now? A performance-based buzzword. Anyway, what it did was really take the personality out of the sales and marketing team, and made us into robotic, functioning, like tin men without a heart from the Wizard of Oz.
Hmm.
Uh, and humour puts heart into communication, and it doesn't mean becoming a clown and becoming a stand-up comedian. It just means using subtle humour, personal, warm, relational tidbits in your communication. And even since you and I have been talking, you've brought a smile to my face. I see I've brought a smile to your face. And I've got a saying, which comes from my long background in sales and marketing, learnt the hard way, Joshua, when they're smiling or laughing with you, they're buying from you. That's a
Mm.
little saying I came up with. I also came up with another one. When I say came up with, I mean this one will burn a few feathers. Uh, the customer isn't always right, but what's right for the customer is always right. Now you take that as a
Mm.
stand, and have a look at the difference that creates for the relationships you have with those you're doing business with.
I really like that line. Um, you had two. When they're laughing with you, they're buying from you. And the customer is not always right, but what's right for the customer is always right. Is that right? The second one?
Spot on.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm really big on axioms that, you know, trans contextual sayings that hold truth. Um, and I, I mean, when they're laughing with you, if you substitute buying for connecting, when they're laughing with you, they're connecting with you. Like when they're laughing with you, they're buying from you. So you can translate buying from to um, absorbing from, maybe. The customer's not always right, but what's right for the customer is always right. Substitute customer for person you're interacting with, whether that's a child, a friend, a spouse, whatever, business colleague. When people might not always be right, but what's always right for them is what's always right. And that defeats manipulation in sales. I feel like that's such a good line. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing those.
Good, Joshua. It does also raise, so you could take a combatant view, uh, or let's just say I'll play devil's advocate here. Well, hang on a minute, Joshua. Hang on a minute, Mike. Who determines what's right for anybody? Where does the definition lie? So that's where discussion becomes interesting. That's where conversation. Like, we could just riff off that for the next 15 minutes if we had time. But that's just an example. And so, what I'm about at the moment, as I move away from the content economy, and I step onto the sand and the shore of the wisdom economy, is to move away from sprouting knowledge and facts that can be drawn from an encyclopedia. And I've burnt that boat behind me. I'm on the sand on the shore of the wisdom economy, and I'm all about clarity, and clarity that comes from experience, uh, points of view, perspective, and personality. That's what I'm bringing to my writing today.
I really admire that. And the wisdom economy is a really juicy sentiment. might more broadly call it the connection economy, because
Yep.
that's what social media tries to generate, but really it ultimately just it absorbs attention in as a as a proxy for connection. It doesn't give you connection, it just absorbs your attention and then makes you think that you're connecting with people and you're really not. But this, what I found really um, subtle but powerful about Substack is that it's it's not based on the algorithm's not based on attention and like usage minutes like a lot of the other social media platforms are. And you own your list and there's all these positive benefits. And I'm just like, you know what? All in. That's where we're going. Um, so take that for what it is. I don't know where to go with that. What my point necessarily
Oh
was.
no, no, I love it. So what? Okay, take from that what you will,
Yeah,
quote
there you go.
unquote. What I take from it is one word: connection. And
Mm,
connection, conversation. What happens through connection? Actually, what creates connection is conversation, and what transpires from connection is more conversation. And as a former copywriter, uh, we did learn about the power of conversation in writing. And you'll hear that phrase: write to one person. Don't write to uh, that vague crowd of many. Just have that
mm.
as if, like, you and I are having this one-on-one conversation. We have people around us who have joined us, and you and I are grateful that we've got those people with us. But if you and I were sitting right now in a cafe having a conversation across the table, this is pretty much how it would transpire. There's no BS involved because there's no BS required. It's just Joshua and Mike having a conversation, and we're connecting.
Yeah. Speaking of wisdom, that was I've mentioned it, and I saw my friend Ryan Allen is either in the room now or came through before, and he and I met on an app called Wisdom. And what's cool about the way Wisdom worked, very similarly to this, is that it was one-on-one conversations. In contrast to like a Clubhouse or a Twitter Spaces where it's kind of a zoo or like a classroom, the one-on-one conversation allows for depth and essence to get mirrored and pour through and connection to genuinely materialize.
You're touching on a very important point, and I'm going to have a look at that when we get off
Well,
the wisdom app.
so wisdom doesn't exist anymore. It got bought out and it's now part of a bigger company called Noom, which is spelled moon but backwards.
Oh, I think I'm familiar with it. Okay. Would
Yeah.
you excuse me while I take a sip of coffee? It's still morning here in Melbourne, Australia.
Hello Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to know last night's winning lotto numbers, just hit me up for a small fee. I'm happy to share them.
There we go. How
Uh,
about a percentage? How about a percentage split?
okay, sounds good to me. I'm always open to collaboration and JV.
There we go.
Interesting about that one-on-one. So when we have a newsletter on Substack, we have by virtue of how that works, we have we collect. People give us. We're we're blessed that we have a platform that enables us to collect email addresses from those who want to read more from us. That's one of the great things from Substack. It's almost an email platform. So what that means is when we send a newsletter to our email subscribers, we're sending one to many. It's the writer, Joshua, sending out to his subscribers. So it's one to many. So we think it's personal, but it's really not. We'd like to think it's personal, but it's just not. And even the chat room, we've got this chat function in Substack where we can send a message to our subscribers to join us in the chat, and then we lead the topic as the host, and people come in and make comments. It's still one to many. Do you know what I'm exploring at the moment, if I can share it with you? Because
Please.
I'm constantly thank you. I'm constantly looking for ways to do things a little bit better. and I'm having a look at how can I connect more one-to-one with my Substack subscribers. And so the technology is direct chat technology, and it's the combination, not replacement of email, but combination of email with WhatsApp. Now, I'm not promoting WhatsApp. I'm just stating that this is an application that can be used. I'm nowhere near ready to pull the trigger, but I'm looking very closely at how others are successfully using WhatsApp, because the problem is, if you've got 1,000, I don't have 1,000 subscribers. I have 500 subscribers on Substack. My average open rate is somewhere between 20 to 30%. The average is about average, which means uh, most of my subscribers don't open, let alone read my newsletter. I'd like to improve on that. And so if there was a some kind of a way to get a message direct to them, and apparently the open rate for a WhatsApp direct message is like 98%. It's crazy. And
Hmm.
imagine the engagement, the connection, and the conversation that will improve if you can send a message on an app like WhatsApp or whatever. Anyway, that's what I'm looking at the moment, just to give you an insight of where my brain's going.
That's really curious. Um, I'm so my brain cycled through a few things, and then I came back to an idea that I had when you said that your open rate was 20 to 30%. Um, there was a segment where you mentioned astrology, and this might be a good time to go back to that thread. But you, when I was doing like serial posts, I would do like basically like a couple hundred words about the astrology for the day and talk about um, formations and do a lot of heavy synthesis work to be like, big heavy world. Here you go. And like, here's what it means for today. And um, my open rate for that period of my archaeological layering of writing was like 50%.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so I wonder what can be drawn from my experience from that, pretty high open rate comparative to the 20% to, um, I mean, short, punchy thoughts on current events, perhaps. Because I notice, I read today that the economy is shifting from information based to perspective based.
Yeah.
And if I wonder, just who knows, if you noticed current events and shared your perspective on them, how that might, I mean, that would shift your writing a bit, which would force the algorithm to have to catch up to you. But um, I'm in the process of writing a post right now that you might model or find interesting as something to maybe model or think about how to reinterpret, reimagine for yourself. That I don't want to spill the beans about, but if you, stay connected, and once I publish it, I can send it to you, or you can subscribe. You can get it automatically. Um, but that should go out in the next. I mean, in your country, in Australia, it's Monday the 22nd, right? Do you think people are more likely to open? I'm sorry, Tuesday. You're right. Yeah, my fault. Um, we're right on the we're right at the curtain call of Christmas, and I suspect that the open rate's going to be lower on Christmas. So maybe I should wait to open it till Friday. Maybe I should, even whether I get it done tonight, tomorrow, maybe I should wait to send it until Friday.
Yeah, which would be Boxing Day here. Well, Boxing Day for you, Boxing Day here for those. You know, I will be interested to look at it, read it, and with interest. Now, you've touched on a couple of important things there. First of all, a 50% open rate, fantastic. Approximately, what's the subscriber numbers for that that list?
Like how much did it grow the audience?
No, how many people on the list? How many people were getting that message that ended up giving you a 50% open rate on average? Did you have a list of
Oh,
100 or 1,000, 10,000?
my list right now is about 108, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So there's this is important this is an important thing you've raised here for us who are growing we want to increase our readership. Look, if you're on Substack, this is where if you're on Substack and you're telling those who talk about monetization, oh look, no, I'm too creative and clever. You know, I'm sure I've got a genealogy connected to Ernest Hemingway. I'm too clever to want to monetize my writing. That's not why I'm here, Mike. I say BS. If you are writing and publishing on Substack, you're a publisher and one sniff away from being a monetized publisher. If all you want to do is write, but you're not interested in monetizing and you don't care who reads it, then why be on Substack? You know, make your choice. If you're kidding yourself and that's what you want to do, fine, be in denial and kid yourself, but don't kid us. So if you're on Substack and you're publishing what you write, you're seeking attention for your writing. Otherwise, you'd just write it in a notepad and read it to yourself when you go to bed at night. So that's a little bit of a vent from me, a point of view, if you like. Now, there's a point of view. That's a point of view, a risky point of view. Depending on who hears that, they could think, "Oh, geez, Mike, you're up yourself. I don't like you very much." Quite possible. Or, geez, Mike, that's how I think too. I want to hear more of this guy. That's the potential risk versus benefit of sharing a point of view, sharing a perspective, stepping out of the content economy, being in the wisdom economy and sharing opinion. Back to the statistics. Obviously, the lower the number of subscribers or list, you can expect a higher open rate. When you get up to 500 and beyond is when it tends to drop, you know, just by mathematics. The more people on the list, the less chance you've got of them opening the list in total, opening your messages and your emails. I think I started off, I don't think I've averaged at a 50% open rate at all. So except when I had two subscribers and one opened it, 50%. That's it. I'll carry that to my grave. I can close off my Substack app forever. So that's on open rates reading, and I don't know where we're going now. I'm going to stop and let you take over again.
that's interesting. Lots of threads there.
Yeah.
The the pretense of idealism. I don't write for money. I just write for myself. Like, I mean, I think there's some awareness anyone could have about the mirror they're looking in, and that the mirror their lives are oriented to face. Like, um, somebody like Steve Jobs, just to think out of the blue, his orientation was um, through technology to beautiful interactions on platforms, something like that. Um, the orientation, I'm thinking a lot about orientation these days. Because I think we're all living in the same world, but from our own, we might say perspective, but perspective is tainted by experience, whereas orientation can be refounded based on unique spiritual truth. Um, and if your spiritual foundation is oriented to uh completely like not care about anyone else, then you would probably just write on a on a Google Doc or Microsoft Word document and just like write to yourself. But then why be on Substack? And if your preference is to be that with just 1% of, yeah, sure, I'll be on Substack and I'll consider like writing so that people can read it if they want to, but I'm not going to look because I'm too good to look. And um, there's a fine line between, self sufficiency and sovereignty. Yeah, there we go. There's a fine line between sovereignty and um, what's the diagnosable psychological term for someone who um not psychopath, not sociopath. Sovereign versus sociopath. Like there's a fine line, but an important distinction between those two words.
Wow. Couple of things I'm learning. You're more intelligent than me. That's pretty highbrow stuff, but it's fun to listen to. And I think you're touching on some important points there. And what got under my skin,
Mm.
Joshua, was so I was writing some posts and notes about monetization, specifically to monetize writing via Substack. Not necessarily on Substack. About the only way we can monetize our writing on Substack is to create a paywall and put our newsletter or content behind a paywall.
Nope.
I hope that changes in the future. I monetize Substack by connection and conversation, and then offering something else which is off the platform. And I write, create, and publish what I call small problem-solving PDFs. They're micro PDF documents, and I publish them on Gumroad. Now, Gumroad is not Substack, but
Right.
most of my sales, I started doing this in July this year, most of my sales, because Gumroad gives statistics of where these buying customers come from, most of them come from Substack, interestingly.
Cool.
Now, what I was going to say, yeah. So when I was writing some posts and engaging on monetization, a few people, one in particular, this guy, had a bit of a go, as we say in Australia. Had a go. So he challenged me, got defensive, and said, I'm not here to monetize anything. I'm not here for any other reason but just to publish my writing." And okay, yeah, but that's right. He's not interested in readers. Went as far as to say that, and I couldn't help myself, being the way I am. I said, "Well, what in the hell are you doing on Substack for if you're not interested in readers? Sit down and write your stuff in a notebook and put yourself to sleep with it at night." Bit challenging, but that's the way I am. Consequently, he unsubscribed. I haven't heard from him since. I hope he's doing well. But look, you'll see it. This is not just my point of view. You'll see it. I saw it just the other day. Someone said, "Why is marketing and selling our writing considered a dirty concept here by some on Substack?" Well, if you want to continue to be a starving artist, fine. That's your thing. That's your choice. If that's what sets you alight, go for it. But don't have a go at us, those of us who want to monetize and get paid for what we put in print, our writing, in whatever format. That's just my little sounding board piece. Thanks for letting me get on my soapbox there, Joshua. You didn't even try and interrupt me. I'm very impressed.
I'm not usually one to interrupt. I usually am one to um move with life and let people. Yeah, I'm not usually one to interrupt. Maybe sometimes. So I don't want to like throw that all around. Um, you know those times when you lose a thread in your mind and you're like, where am I?
Do I know? I'm in that I'm in that state constantly. But I've got a question for you, if you don't mind.
Please.
Well, brevity in writing, I find works well. Uh, when we write notes on Substack, you'll see the notes that really fire and take off are some of the briefest. Talk about brevity. It's just 2 or 3 lines, and they can really take off. Not all of them. Some of them are longer, like my friend Monica Hebert, Hebert. If you're not familiar with her on Substack, connect. She wrote a rather lengthy note 3 weeks ago, and it's had 9,000 likes and hundreds of comments, and that's what you would call a viral note on Substack. I've seen others 30,000 likes. I mean, it's just crazy. But Monica Hebert, Hebert, Monica.
The Daily
So
Rewire.
yeah, that's it. She's killing it.
Mhm.
Now, where am I going with that? Brevity. Why was I talking about brevity? Is he talking
Two to
about
three line. Yep.
where would we? Oh, that's right. Now you're into astrology. I've actually got. I love. So there's a British uh, astrologist, quite famous, unfortunately passed away suddenly at the age of 58 from heart attack. Uh,
Mm.
Jonathan Cainer, Cainer, 12 million readers per day of his daily horoscopes published all around the world. Now, his nephew Oscar has taken over the reins, and it's now Oscar who publishes uh, the horoscope column, syndicated. But the point I want to get to is go go. If I may mention this, so I don't want to detract from you inviting people to follow your work. Do you actually write? Before I say so, do you actually write astrology uh, like a daily horoscope for 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 your audience?
I did for a while. Uh, I did for a while and I stopped because it got too much when I was also trying to build a school. That was 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half ago when I think I stopped the writing the daily astrology. I called it an astrology blast, or then I called it an astrology brief because it was brief and it was astrology like notes for the day. Um, and I stopped doing that, and I haven't gotten back into the daily posts. But I've been writing a lot of notes. Um, and so I haven't. So I have like to answer your question. No, I haven't really done it at all in like I don't know a
All
year.
right. Well, I asked because out of politeness, I didn't want to cannibalize what you're doing. So,
I
with
did.
permission, I can mention this website then. Because there's a reason why I want to mention it. So it's cainer.com, Cainea. Pardon me, correction, Cainer.com, cainer.com. I've got it written down there. Yep. Now, this is about writing for brevity, writing with brevity, getting a message across. If you want to have a free lesson in how to write with brevity and interest and magnetic attention, study the way, now it's Oscar, it was Jonathan, writes these daily horoscopes. It's just beautiful. And you could model this style of writing, even just for one thing, how to write your notes. That's a tip I want to share because that's something I'm looking at too, because I'm always looking for ways to improve and do things better. And I can't see of any better free lesson in having a look at how these daily horoscopes are written. And I think your viewers and your listeners, be those with us on this live stream right now, Joshua, or those who might listen or watch later to the recording, uh, hopefully they'll have a look at kana.com.
Mm-hmm.
I've got no interest in, obviously I'm not promoting it for benefit or gain. I'm just sharing something that I think's worthwhile.
You wanted to ask me some questions at the beginning. Specifically, you were interested about astrology, and about, like, I think about my astrology writing, and you wanted to ask me some other questions. So I just wanted to invite that to come circle back.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Permission to be frank and open.
I mean, please.
Thank you. So I am into woo-woo. Now, I'm not suggesting astrology is woo-woo, because I believe. Now you've got the wisdom here. Now this is an interesting thing. I've only got knowledge of astrology. I don't have know-how based and experience. You do. So I'm coming here from the neophyte, really. But what I do, so my state of mind, when someone says astrology, I think, okay, it's woo-woo, it's out there, figuratively and literally. Uh, and how much reality is there to it? I mean, I know the moon affects our tides, and that's about the extent of my understanding of how planets influence us down here, or across there, or up there. So I'm presuming all planets are up there. They might be beneath us for all I know. There you go. So, all right, let me be the open inquirer, not the skeptic, but I'm open to being educated. What is it I'm missing about how astrology can work in my life?
Mm. I have a book draft about literally that question. Um, well, more on the proof and the context, but then allowing readers to understand the mechanics so that they can make the determinations, so that to basically to empower free will. Um, so there are, in the United States alone, about 350, near about million people in the United States. Uh, I did some research a month or two ago, and learned that there was more than 20 different industries whose executives make employment level and other important projection based business decisions based on data that correlates with the lunar cycle. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I learned in upper elementary school that it was um, police and emergency room staff made staffing decisions based on data that correlated with the lunar cycle. And that, to me at the time, was such a big deal, because I reasoned that a business's biggest expense, and uh, the biggest expense and the most predictable expense, is staffing. And if you're hedging your biggest and most predictable expense based on data, that data is really, really important, whatever the source is. And astrology has a, I've often said that astrology has less baggage to only one word. Can you guess what that word might be?
Belief?
Close. God. There's only one word in the entire language, in all of human communication, that has more baggage than the word astrology, and that's God. Um, and so meaning that everyone has a different interpretation of it. Everyone has a different understanding of it. Everyone has a different um, willingness to consider its reality. You know, the validity of its reality. Like, so I knew, and the only way, like, I had this experience in like 2012. After 2012, it was probably 2013, when I was with a coworker, and uh, she was the only one who laughed at the joke that I made in a room full of other coworkers, and they all got it, but none of them thought it was funny. And me and this one coworker, she totally got it and thought it was hilarious, and she just lost it. I'm like, this happens. I'm like, okay, like this happens a lot. What is this about? This isn't romantic, but like, what is it about our connection? And she's like, me too. Like, I notice it too. I don't know. Are you the same star sign as me? And I'm like, oh, really? This stuff again? And and was really resistant to accepting, adopting, owning, interpreting, you know, giving serious recognition to astrology. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, we're the same star sign." I'm like, "Oh god, so there's 12 of these things. So there's not 12 people. Like there's not 12 kinds of people. Like what do you mean?" And she's like, "Yeah, but the sun is in a different orientation in the sky for everybody, and based on the time they're born, and all the planets are somewhere. Like so there's relationships to everything. There's relationships to all the planets. So there's a lot more than just your sun sign." I'm like, "Oh, so all the planets are somewhere, so everything must be important. Oh, so how does that work?" And it's been a long journey. It's been like 10, 15 years almost. Had a reading in there, had a long story that I've kind of written about a little bit. And um, you asked, how do you know? Or how do you want to know how do you know? Or do you want to know what's the astronomical foundation that makes it real?
Both, but hit me with the latter.
Yeah. So you're asking a context question. So there's two things that you can the first thing that you can very easily see, the winter solstice yesterday morning for me. So about that same amount of time for you too, right? Uh, and the big deal about December 25th, from an astronomical standpoint and from a pagan standpoint, that was why Christmas is on December 25th instead of in March, um, is because I, I mean, in Australia, I think, it's the other side of the world. So it's upside down to the United States. So I assume for you, the sun goes east or west towards the sun. Is it west?
Rises in it, you mean where does it rise?
Well, I mean, so good question. Thanks for the clarification. So every morning in the United States, the sun rises in the east, um, on the south side, and then is it in the winter. So December 21st is the winter solstice, and that's when it changes direction, when the horizon point of the sunset and the sunrise. So the horizon point of the sunset and the sunrise goes every night, every morning. The horizon point goes south, stops on the winter solstice, goes north, changes direction and goes north, hits the midpoint at the equinoxes, continues all the way north for us, till the summer solstice, stops. Right, this is the everyday rhythmic sunset point. Right, goes all the way comes north, and then every night after night goes back south towards the winter solstice. And so there's this oscillation of the sunset year over year on where that horizon, where the sunset meets the horizon line, across the span of a year, right?
Do you know what comes to mind?
What's that?
Are you familiar with that phenomenon? Phenomena? Is it phenomena or phenomenon? Where,
Eh?
what is it? What is it?
Phenom- I don't know. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no, truly, I can never remember. There's a lot of things I can't remember, and that's one of them. The difference. The other one is media and medium. I still can't understand the difference. I know that there is a difference, but I can't get it locked in there. Anyway, uh, there's a place on the planet where you can stand on the south side of the equator in the southern hemisphere and flush a toilet, and it'll spin one way, and you literally step 2 or 3 steps on the other side into the northern hemisphere, and the toilet flushes in the opposite direction. Is so horoscopes being planetary influence. Is, is there a connection with? I mentioned all I know about planetary influence is moons affect our tides. Oh, I also am fascinated by the concept that we're supposed to be 70% water or fluid. Therefore, if we're that fluid, maybe the influence of the moon, lunar on tides affects our state, maybe our state of mood, etc. So that's where my thinking's been. Gee, we're going down a rabbit hole, Joshua. Where you taking me, mate? Well, next minute we'll be Alice in the tea party.
You wanted to know about proof of astrology. So so I'm trying to walk you through a series of doors.
Oh,
Um,
mate, it's too late. Walk me through them. I'm down the hallway. I turn right.
yeah, and it seems like you've got a baseball bat on your forehead and you're doing spins on the ground and you're like, where am I?
Starting to feel that way.
So um the point you just made was a really good one. I was looking for a picture. The point you made was a really good one. Yeah, the 70% water thing. So that's not conclusive. It's enough to make anyone pause and go, I wonder, right? Just like you're kind of doing. I wonder, is there something to this? And my pause to wonder, I mean, yeah, that's a really good one. Like we're 70% water. So then it makes you go like, I wonder, right? Like my Substack is called Grow Through Wonder because
Yeah.
I really embrace and want to promote the idea that we grow by embracing wonder. But you don't stop there, you grow through it, right? That's a really big distinction. Lots of people stop at wonder and go, and then they get judged because somebody's like, oh, you're just making stuff up. And you're like, you don't know how to defend it. You don't know how to even think about how to approach a big challenging question like that. And first principles is the foundation to approaching really tough questions. I mean, Elon Musk talks about it all the time. And like, he's done pretty well in terms of inventing new stuff, right?
Yeah, very. Yeah.
So in terms of approaching something like this, I mean, the data is there. The correlations are there. So we're 70% water and the moon causes the tides. So how could astrology not have an effect? The question is not, and here's the important part. The question is not, is it or is it not real? The question is, how is it real? In what way and how much? That is an obsession question for me. For example, you can interpret a chart in a number of different ways from different styles of astrology to different astronomical approaches to calculating calculating house placements. There's more than a dozen different ways to calculate house placements, which tells me that none of them are fundamentally true. Because something that's true reverberates across systems. And so I don't know that any one particular house system is more correct than another, except that I kind of like this one called porphyry, because it uses, so every astrology system says that the horizon line is this and the vertical axis is this, but then the way they calculate the slices in between the vertical and horizontal is different based on how they hedge their math calculations, right? Like one system is basically true, except it doesn't really work as you get towards the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, down like the upper third or upper and the lower parts of the world, right? Um, and the north parts and the south parts of the world. I don't mean upper and lower like that means anything.
I know what you mean.
And another system is you know, account like reimagined the math or approached the math from a different perspective so that the houses could calculate properly in the upper and in the north and south quadrants of the globe, right? It's just different ways to lie with statistics. And I don't mean to say any way that mathematicians are liars, but I mean that a lot of what
Oh
people
no,
do,
go ahead. No, please go ahead. You know, you go ahead.
I mean, it's so easy. If you omit data, you're creating a fundamental mistruth.
Yeah.
So the way I approach astrology is that only the data that can't be argued with is useful, and all of the data that can't be argued with is useful. Meaning, the way I approach astrology is so fundamentally astronomical and physics based that I have to come up with a new term for it because it's not technically astrology anymore. Because when I start to explain to astrologers what it is and how it works, they're like, "Huh?" They don't understand. Because they're wrapped up in the idea that some planets like you and some planets don't like you, and this planet rules that house, but that planet rules the other house based on this system from the 1600s versus that system from the 19. And I'm like, if you have to argue based on the time period, then it's not real. And so my strong position on it is that the only parts that are real are the parts that are universally real. Arc distance, I think, is really important, meaning if you can see the sun over there and you can see the moon over there, in terms of 360 degrees, I don't care who you are or what system of science you use, the sun's right there and the moon's right there. That is an arc distance that can be measured. And that means something. What it means is a whole lot more, has a whole lot more nuance to it, depending on a lot of different things. But the inarguability of, look, it's right there, is kind of where my astrology starts.
A few. Okay, so extremely interesting. A few things come to mind. So my greatest mentor and teacher in marketing, direct response marketing and copywriting, especially Dan S. Kennedy, one of his often quoted statements, advice was, look at what most people are doing in your chosen niche and do the opposite.
Yeah.
You have a fresh perspective to offer, which you've just shared some of it with us, and that will be your point of difference to go hard on and rattle the cage and fluff a few feathers and make and get attention. I have a few, you know, you get to age 67 and you develop some favorite quotes yourself, and another one of mine is, sometimes you have to overact to get a reaction. And so you do have to make a bit of noise and take out the wooden spoon and the metal pot, and bang it a few times. Here's and with permission, Joshua, I'll wind up from my point of view because I've got a few things to get on with, and I know that your time's late in the day there for you. Here's what I know is that I don't know, but I want to know more. And I want to know more, not just so I can accumulate knowledge based on facts and data. I want to know more so I can test what I know and accumulate know-how, because know-how then turns into experience, and that's where the wisdom comes from. I'm 67. Do I have wisdom? Undoubtedly. I'm a sober alcoholic. I've been sober for 16 years. You want to ask me about how tough that was and the experience of being a no-hoper drunk that was unemployable, broke, and in psychiatric hospitals? I can tell you. Is there an experience that comes from that? My word, there is. Could somebody benefit from hearing that story told in a very personal way? Absolutely. That's what AA is all about, among other things, 12-step program. So, but do you have to wait till later life to have wisdom? This is something I'd like to just mention, if I may. Is wisdom only the possession of those in senior years? I don't believe so. A 30-year-old professional ski instructor has wisdom that I don't have. And therefore, if I was interested in being a good snow skier on skis, I would want to listen to a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 20-year-old. And you can extrapolate that out. I'm a golfer, and so there's this number one golfer in the world called Scotty Scheffler. I don't think he's even hit 30 years of age yet. And the wisdom he would have through know-how and experience about training and application and playing the tour and all that, and winning all that money and knowing how to handle life with attention and money that most of us could only dream about if we wanted, etc., etc. So I do want to know more so I can develop know-how, so I can, and hearing you, I'm getting knowledge from you, Joshua, about your perspectives on astrology. I'm drawing from you. It's osmotic. And so your wisdom has somewhat been drawn into me. Well, there's a bit of a osmosis. Now, that's all about transference through a filter, and isn't it? That's a bit weird. But look, you wrote a note only 7 or 8 hours ago with the title of it. I call the first few words of any note a title because that's what grabs people's attention first. You said, grow through wonder. And I thought, I've got to write that down if I get a chance. I just want to mention that, how beautiful that is, to grow through wonder, to wonder about astrology. What is it that astrologists know that I don't know? Do I want to know? Or is it something that's too highbrow, too esoteric, too woo-woo? I just want to keep my feet on the ground and feel the chair that I'm sitting on my backside. These are the questions we can ask ourselves. Does having wisdom mean you're a know-all who knows nothing? No, not quite. But are you a guru that should take the high ground and look down upon those? No, absolutely not. Not from my perspective anyway. Always on equal plane. I know what I know. Alcoholism. I know about alcoholism. I've experienced it. And you may never experience it, and I hope you don't. You may know, I'm talking as if I'm talking to a third person here. I've got my hand out there. You can't see it, but I'm having a conversation, make believe. You may never, you may know, you may have a relative or a close friend or a colleague who is going through it, has experience, et cetera, et cetera. That's the approach I take. Same with you talking about your interests and your passion for astrology and the book that you're writing. I think you said you're about to publish or you're soon to publish. Fascinating stuff. So, what did I put here? All of life is learning. That's your note from 7 or 8 hours ago. Uh, correction. The note wasn't Grow Through Wonder. That's the title of your Substack publication. I apologize. I've got a note here and I read the wrong line. The line that I wrote from the note you published 7 or 8 hours ago is all of life is learning. All of life is learning. More life for some means more learning. Not, this is my words, so I'm adding on to that. More life for some means more learning. Joshua Blattman says all of life is learning. I add to that, more life for some means more learning. Not information, not the accumulation of information and facts and statistics and taking the high ground. The experience, the humble experience that comes from know-how. Off my soapbox. Thanks for letting me have that say, Joshua.
Yeah. Uh, cool. Is there something that you want me to respond to about that? All of life is learning. I mean, um,
Yes, that you wrote it. Expand on it.
insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, right? So if you're going to do something different than the same thing over and over again, it can only be because you're wearing a blindfold trying to play pin the tail on the donkey, or because you're thinking about your behavior and expanding your perspective outside of the moment in order to and you're considering and you're strategizing and you're um, trying to improve your results. So you can only intentionally shift through learning, through experiential knowledge. And if you don't shift, it's because you didn't actually learn the thing. And that's a polarizing idea, because there's lots of people. To add on to what you said, I drank so much for so long, um, and would regularly say I don't want to do that anymore, and I wouldn't, and I would tell myself that all the way up to the cash register and all the way, you know, all the way to the bottom of the bottle, right? Whatever it was, and um, I might have wanted to change it, but my nervous system didn't want to change it. And there's a really cool book, really a short one. I wish I could remember the name of it. It was, I think, by those two brothers who are professors at Duke, those twin brothers who are professors at Duke University in one of the Carolinas here on the East Coast of the US. And they said, they had this analogy of the rider and the elephant. And I talk about this a decent amount. So this is a good analogy. It's one of the analogies I use often. And it's, yeah, I mean, I use it with my music students. I have bassoons. I teach bassoon of all things, and I used it with her. I used it with myself as I'm teaching myself how to play guitar. Singer songwriter music is another one of the things I do, and the the rider and the elephant analogy is that we all have this physical meat suit that is the elephant, and getting your fingers to do a riff or getting your body to play some passage on a bassoon or clarinet or flute or whatever the physical skill is that you're trying to technically execute, requires patience from the brain rider that already understands it. Right? The rider of the elephant knows where he wants the elephant to go, but no elephant is going to run cones, for example, right? Like zigzag between cones. No elephant is going to do that. So the rider has to see ahead of time and guide the elephant towards the behavior that it wants it to do. Um, so in some cases, and this distinction is very hard, it's beyond our senses, which is part of why I love astrology. The distinction that's beyond our senses is that some things are rip off the band-aid and some things are redirect an elephant. I talk to my 6-year-old son who has his own wisdom, right? I talk to him sometimes about um uh about road cones, or I mean it's kind of horseshoes and hand grenades. But um meaning horseshoes you get points if you get close. Hand grenades you can't go anywhere close to them.
I like that.
Another good one is hmm, there's lots of little metaphors that maybe because it's kind of late here, that the one that's coming to mind isn't actually crystallizing, um, that that draw a distinction between, again, the analogy of the um, elephant or the band-aid, right? You rip off the band-aid maybe, but there's no way you can't. uh Elephants take slow turns, right? As you're riding them. So discerning when to do one or the other in your real life is hard if you don't have a template and a foundation and a way to orient your personhood to those decisions. Um, so I ultimately think, you know, circling back to what we said about astrology, most astrologers look at it like it's a like fate. I don't even think that fate is a real thing. Like it's not a spiritual principle. Fate is an overcommitment to one potential outcome. It's not a prescription. It's not an ultimatum. I think fate is an inability to let stuff go.
Profound. Excuse me. People don't need a new idea. They've got to learn how to let go of the three that aren't working for them. That's
Right,
profound.
exactly. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, they don't so
Well,
many people don't need
something
a new
else,
idea. Go ahead, sorry.
Joshua. Uh,
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
may, I've got to go. But can I just finish from my side and then hear uh, your closing remarks because it's your live stream? Excuse me. Excuse me if I may just finish this. Oh. Thank you. So I said that I'm looking forward to this live stream, and I sensed beforehand an esoteric awareness that it would be interesting, and it has been. And how do I know? On reflection, because we've talked about band-aids, elephants, toilets flushing one way or the next, then the osmotic effect of cellular. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things. And, this is interesting communication, interesting conversation. My parting word, if I may, is about the fellow Substacker who wants to do more with Substack, wants to grow. They're not the starving artist who kids themselves. They are interested in the monetization of their creative output, whether that's a subscription based newsletter behind a paywall on Substack, or whether that's taking your writing and publishing on another platform and bringing your followers and subscribers from Substack to that other platform and generating income and revenue for yourself. The stuff we pay our bills with. Love's fantastic. I love love. I love my wife and children and grandchildren, but none of it I found can be put into my bank account. So, money. Love can make the world go round, money pays the bills. So, the point I want to make finally on that for those who are with us, Joshua, who want to grow their Substack, because we're on Substack, so we've got Substackers with us, either now or watching you on recording. I hear it and see it often, Joshua, and you would too. I lack the confidence to do this, that, or the other. To hell with confidence. You don't need confidence. What you need is courage. The courage to take the stand, push through the fear, and do it anyway. Because confidence is the child of courage. I didn't have the confidence to stop drinking. It frightened the hell out of me to live life without alcohol after drinking for so many years. If I waited for confidence, I'd still be drinking or I'd be dead. Fact. But I bit the bullet and I did the thing I had to do, even though I was scared witless, through courage. And so if you've got a Substack and you want to grow it and you want to earn revenue and you want to earn more to pay those bills, courage, not confidence, is what you need. Joshua, I really am grateful for your invitation to join you today. I've had some fun. I've seen you smiling and laughing. You've made me smile and laugh. And at the end of it all, that's what it's all about, mate. Don't you reckon?
Yeah, man. 100%. It is, it, presence and purpose are two sides of the same reality. And just to coattails on what you said, thank you for that beautiful message. And I so love that sentiment and the distinction you made, where you said that confidence is a hindsight emotion. It's a quote from your article. And I love that so much because, courage is a foresight emotion, and confidence is the hindsight emotion. And you can't get confidence by doing anything other than taking courage. They're like those two words that I just said a second ago. Presence and purpose. And the thoughtfulness of that made me that's what I read from you. And I was like, I want to talk to that guy. Cause that seems like an interesting statement. And I bet he has some interesting things to say behind the website. I have this quote that I think that's really related, that I think you might enjoy, that I'd like to share before you go, if that's cool.
Yeah, please do.
Confidence comes from confidence comes from evidence of excellence and the systems that reproduce it.
Wow. I'll have to watch the replay to hear that again, unless you can re-quote it, please.
Confidence comes from evidence of excellence and your systems that reproduce it.
Systems that reproduce. Is that yours?
That's mine. Yep.
You're an intelligent guy, Joshua. I knew it just looking at you, even though you do look like Jack Levi. You are an intelligent guy.
Alex Hormozy said that confidence comes from proof. And I think that's true, but incomplete.
Yeah.
Because confidence comes from proof is like saying that guns work because they go bang. Like, I mean, he's right. It's right. And I don't mean to, he has so much cool stuff to say. There's nothing, there's no criticism, but the statement is incomplete. Confidence comes from evidence of excellence, which is proof.
Yes.
But also from the systems that reproduce it. So
now, where online have you had a conversation about that? Have you written that up?
Should I?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. Absolutely. If you'll permit me to guide you, please do. that is a post. That is a post that will be magnetic. Uh, and I look forward to reading it. Please do write it up as a post, preempt it with a note, write it as a post, send it to your newsletter subscribers. I'll be one of them if I'm not already. I can't recall. And I look forward to reading it. Joshua, I've got to go. I've got to pull the pin. Thank you again very much for your invite. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And may I also, I'm grateful to your audience who have stayed with us for the live, and also for those of your audience who are watching the replay, and also from my audience who may watch the recording. Thank you very much for watching and joining us. And Joshua, I wish you all the best. Actually, I'd like to do it again. Maybe the next one it will be me hosting and interviewing you. We have a joint conversation, but I'll be the one who invites you onto my live stream, because you are an intelligent guy. You're a thinker, and I want to go deep into a number of things. And so that's what I'd like to do if you'll accept that invitation.
Warmly. Let's talk on the back
Okay,
channel.
terrific.
Happen.
Terrific. Okay. Fare thee well.
Good to talk to you, Mike. Talk to you soon. Happy holidays.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Same to you. Thank you.